Hey, my love. So good that you are here to this new episode with me, your host, Eva Silva. And what we are talking about today is why setting boundaries save your life. So maybe you know this too, always being there for everyone and not doing what you actually want to do. So always putting yourself on the back burner and then realize that was a stupid idea. Not doing what you enjoy and what you actually want. This hurts sometimes, right? The question for you is, where will you end up if you don't set boundaries? And maybe you'll come to the conclusion that you won't get anywhere when you don't set boundaries. And when you maybe have the feeling that something is holding you back, that you are not moving forward, maybe you will keep asking yourself, who am I and what do I want? Because the problem there is you don't stand up for yourself and you don't trust yourself anymore if you don't set boundaries. So everything stands and falls with boundaries. That's why it's just so extremely important to set boundaries, even if it's sometimes hard to say no, and I understand this 100%, but it's really, really important. If you look at successful women, you see that they clearly set boundaries, that they not there for everyone and all the time, that they don't constantly say yes to all kinds of things that are brought to them, and that they also say no to friends and family in the same way, and also aren't there for everything and everyone. And that's what made them so successful in the end, because they set boundaries, they set a limit, and they stand for it. And when you have the feeling that there is more, if you have the feeling that you are stuck, if you have the feeling that you are somehow not really appreciated or actually constantly being used somehow, but in the opposite sense, nothing comes back, you don't get any further, then you should definitely take a look at yourself. Do you set limits and boundaries? And how many boundaries and limits do you set? So question that for yourself and reflect on that for yourself, to set or no to get clear on that and to reflect on your life on that. And you can ask yourself also, if you don't set boundaries now, or if you just have problems with it, what are you afraid of? What is the fear behind setting boundaries or just saying no? And feel free to write that down as well. What am I afraid of when it comes to setting boundaries? And on the other hand, what do you gain when you set boundaries? What is the good behind it? So ask yourself these two questions, what I'm afraid of and what do I gain from them, so the good stuff. And write this down and write your answers down. So set a time for you when you do this. So when you really sit down and ask this question, to you and answer these questions, because then you get aware of that and you can work on that. Because what I see also is when we don't do something, it is usually connected with fear. So with the fear of rejection, with the fear that the person will no longer like me, that people will abandon me, that I will be excluded, whatever. So all these fears most likely stand behind them. It must be the same for you, but this, for example, can be some things that stand behind the problem of not setting boundaries properly. And yeah, to be real, these fears hold you back, of course. But if you make these fears conscious, then you can work on them. So because everything that we become aware of, we can also begin to change. So you can ask yourself these two questions in any case to go deeper into it for yourself. So you don't must show this someone, it's only for yourself, okay? What boundaries also do for you is they will help you become more confident in general, because when you set boundaries, you also prove to yourself that you are worth it. And then automatically comes the self-confidence and thinking, okay, I'm worth it for my things to go. So these are the goodies you get when you set these boundaries and these limits. And if you have thought through these two questions and have written down, then you can immediately take the next step and write down what are actually your goals that you want to achieve, that are important to you, and why you have never tackled them until now. Because to find out what your goals are and to define them very clearly will in the end also help to set limits and boundary much more easier. Because when we have a very specific goal in mind that really motivates us, that inspires us, and where we really say that I absolutely want to do it, it is simply easier for us to set these limits and boundaries because we have this goal in mind. And often it is also the case that we do not set limits, not only because there is perhaps a fear behind it, but also because we do not know where we want to go, because we are so extremely determined by the outside world. And maybe you know this too. You can't think too big because then you megalomatic. That's really bad if you have really big dreams, and through that we just bury it, especially if you hear it very often in your childhood, and if we are criticized and ridiculed, then we bury our dreams or don't tell anyone anymore, or suppress it because we had such bad experiences with it. And now that you are an adult and you can decide for yourself, you should give yourself permission to take it up again, to dream big again, to write it down and to really think about it. Okay, what are my dreams? What do I want to do with my life? And to push away everything that is somehow against you. So put this away and write down what comes to your mind and what you really want. And here I have a special thing for you. I hereby give you permission, okay, to dream big again, to bring out your real dreams and goals that you may have buried somewhere in a drawer in your in yourself, or maybe even really buried somewhere in a drawer in your apartment, in your house, wherever, and put them out again and reflect on the whole thing and look for yourself. Is this still coherent? Do I still want this? And also make you aware of this. What could I do as a first step to take up this dream again, or to take up this goal again and start when you are coherent with this? When not, of course, no problem. I'm really sure you have a dream, a goal that you really want to achieve inside you, but you don't tell someone. So go with that and look, okay, what can I do? A little tiny step to start get closer to my dream, to this dream and goal. So start with this as well and have so much fun with it. And okay, yeah, what else? So what else are negative consequences if you do not set boundaries? Well, if you have very little energy, if you always feel really low on energy, so really, yes, sucked out and depressed or drained, you also have a hard time getting things going, then it's always a sign that you're not living your true goal, your true life mission, that you're just always pushing back too much. Okay, it's definitely also a sign that on the one hand you don't love the life you have, and on the other hand you're not setting enough boundaries, because we always feel drained only when we always give away the energy and give away, but not get back, so never get back the energy. And when we live our life purpose, then it's always a giving and receiving thing. So it's never only give and give and give and give, but not receive. It's like a ping pong thing. And also, if too few positive things happen in your life, then it is simply also a sign that you are not living the life that you really should be living. And yeah, it's so important to stand up for yourself and to start setting your boundaries because of that, because you don't living your true desires, your gifts, and you feel always low in energy, depressed and drained, and all these bad things we don't want to have. And when you start living your dreams, then this will shift. Because when we live our dreams, that is how we slowly release those negative feelings from your body and release them with positive, replace them with positive feelings and get more energy and become healthier. Because when we every day we feel this negative feelings, then we store them also in our bodies, and this cause our health. This brings up disease and this bad things like back hurts and knee hurt and whatever, everything hurt, because we are in this low energy state. What boundaries also are very helpful with is stay focused and on your path, because often we are always so scattered. If we do not set boundaries, if we give too much and get too little back, then it is so that we are like an octopus with many arms everywhere but not where they should be. And if you don't set boundaries, you can't set focus and then you can't achieve your goals. That means for you as a task, taking this one, ask yourself, what path have I taken so far? Am I satisfied with it? And where should I have set boundaries that I didn't? And what are my goals? So my real goals, what I want to achieve. So do this and write this also down. And make a list of all the things where you will say no from now on. And it doesn't have to be a long list, okay? If it's one thing you're going to start with, that's fine. It's just about starting, okay? It's clear that you're not going to say no to everything and everyone right away. And that's not necessary, by the way. But just not saying yes to everything, it's a starting point for you. And when you start this list, so where you write down to which things do I want to say no from now on, you can always add to this list more things, but start with a few things and see that you really do this consistently. So this one thing maybe, and then you can add more to it. And you will notice in the beginning, when you stand up for yourself, the first 2 or 3 times where you really say no, then it is a bit unpleasant. It feels not really good, but go through with it, because you will notice afterwards that you feel better, that you feel more self-confident, because you have stood up for yourself. If you now say, that's not possible at all, I can't do that, I can't say no, then you have 2 possibilities. The first one is, see if you can find something even smaller, where you say to yourself, okay, yes, this is also outside of my comfort zone, but I can still do this, I can still handle this. And then start with that. The second possibility you can do is with imagination work. That means you just imagine it. And you can do this by roll your shoulders back, chest out, so really stand up straight, because how we stand there also has a very big influence on how we feel and how we come across. And then say no in your imagination. And you can also take a small reason why you are saying no now. So imagine the situation, standing up straight and say no. The next step is that you stand in front of a mirror and imagine this situation again and say no. And then, yes, you have to go out at some point. So at some point, the time is simply there where you just really have to take action to really transfer it to the real life. But of course, you can practice it for yourself beforehand and then carry it out into the real life. And of course, it can also be a habit to which you say no from today on. It doesn't always have to be a situation with other people that you say no to. If you have a habit that bothers you, that gets on your nerves and that you want to change, but you don't set any boundaries or limits here either, then think about which habit it will say no to from now on. And if you maybe don't succeed every day, then don't stop there, because it is quite normal that we can't do everything perfectly from the day 1 to 100%. Okay? That means just set the intention and see that you do it as often as possible. And if it's somehow that you didn't do it once or twice, then that's no problem. It's okay. Tomorrow is another day with new possibilities, and there you can start again and say no again. So practice it every day. If it's a habit, what you say no, it is a situation for where people are involved. Try it constantly every day to say no. And when you can't handle it on one day, it's no problem, it's no disaster. The next day you have the new possibility to do it. So that's it for today. If you have any questions here, want to have more detailed information, then feel free to write me. You can leave me a comment, or of course feel free to write me an email, then I can answer you, and or we can get to a conversation also and just go deeper on that. So this is always possible, so no worries here, and write me. And yeah, otherwise don't forget to follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn, subscribe to my podcast, of course, and feel free to share them if you say, okay, this was really helpful and interesting, and I like to share that with a friend or someone who should listen to that as well. I wish you a lot of fun in implementing and practicing your limits and your boundaries. And in case we hear us next Tuesday, next Tuesday again, I am super happy to have you back then. And yeah, I wish you a wonderful time. I bless you with light, love, success, health, and wealth. With love, yours, Eva.